Hi, I'm Sharon Winsmith, a tax attorney, active investor, and your go-to resource for proven investment and tax planning strategies. In this video, we're going to talk about why you should never assume that you have to pay tax. I see a lot of comments on my videos, especially my buy, borrow, die videos, where people say things like, yeah, but you have to pay tax on the secondary source of income. That is not true. There are plenty of very wealthy people who pay little to no tax. There are tons of legal strategies that you can use to reduce the taxes you pay on your money. All you need is to be willing to invest the time and effort into learning those strategies and understanding how you can use them yourself. When you're thinking about tax money, it's important to understand that how you make money matters. The tax code is full of incentives that try to encourage the behaviors that the government wants to see when it comes to how people make their money or how they invest their money. So, for example, the government really prefers people who create jobs. That means that the government is always going to give more tax incentives to people who are business owners that create jobs for employees and hire employees to help with their business, as opposed to the people who take those jobs. So W-2 employees are always going to be taxed more inefficiently than the person who is the job creator for those W-2 employees. The government also really wants to encourage you to invest your money. They don't want you sitting, holding a bunch of cash or just doing things with your money that's not going to facilitate or encourage a good economy. So, for example, you get lower tax rates on things like capital gains. You also get lower tax rates on things like real estate investments. The tax code is full of incentives for people who invest in real estate because everyone needs a home. And so the government really wants to incentivize people to invest their money in a way that they're providing homes for people to live in. When I think about building wealth, I think about two sides to the equation. So first you have the left side, which is how you make money. How do you earn that first dollar? So is it going to be from your job where you get paid your salary? Is it going to be from some sort of business that you create or buy? How do you kind of earn that first dollar? How do you bring in money in the first place? Then the other side of the equation is how do you invest that money that you earn? So you want to make sure that you're being efficient from a tax standpoint on both sides of the equations. The tax strategies that are going to apply to how you make money as opposed to how you invest money are very different in a lot of cases. So you want to break this down as far as your own personal situation and think about the strategies you can use to minimize taxes on both sides of the equation here. So in an effort to try to spice things up, I've actually hired a new video editor. That is me. So I'm going to try to incorporate some graphics, make it a little bit more interesting. I know these topics are pretty dry and can be kind of boring. So let's see how this goes. I know it might be a little bit cheesy. I'm certainly not, very artistic myself. But in this video, I'm going to walk you through a couple of examples of people who, earn money in a way that they're paying a lot of tax and people who earn money in a way that they're not paying a lot of tax. I'm going to do the same thing on the investment side of the equation. I'm going to tell you about people who are very efficient when it comes to how they invest their money, and also show you people who are really kind of just the basic average person out there who has investments and what they're doing wrong as far as how they make their investments and how inefficient those investments are. So in this first example, let's talk about someone who earns their money in a way that is really inefficient. So we're on the left side of the equation where we're talking about how do you make your money. So let's say this individual is a lawyer. She works at a big law firm. She's an employee, gets a W-2 salary every year. She's wearing a business suit to work every day. And gosh, I don't miss those days. She, you might think this used to be my dream. I used to idolize people like this. I used to think, gosh, she's killing it. She's making a high salary of $1 million a year. But as you start to learn and understand taxes and how they work, you will quickly realize that she is paying over half of her salary in taxes. So for her to earn a salary and work at a really big law firm, she's probably working in a big city, somewhere like New York City, where I live. So she is easily paying over half of her salary in taxes between federal taxes, state, city, and then payroll taxes you don't even know you're paying. Her take-home pay at the end of the day is going to be about half of what her salary is, and best case scenario. She's also working around the clock, probably 6 to 7 days a week in order to get a salary like that. She's probably working on very large, very stressful client accounts. So it's just not really necessarily a great quality of life that she's living in order to earn a salary like that. And at the end of the day, she's losing half of her money in taxes. So you might think that, $1 million a year is worth those types of trade-offs and that type of, stressful work life, but $500,000 is probably definitely not worth that. So let's talk about someone who doesn't pay a lot of tax but can still make the same amount of money. Here we have someone who's, much more entrepreneurial. She might also be a lawyer, but instead of working in a big law firm, she decided to start her own business. So she works hard a few years to build up her business. She hires some people to do most of the heavy lifting, and she makes about $600,000 of profits a year. This is very realistic. This is not hard to do after working, yourself a couple of years to build up the business. I think, a lot of people could get much higher than this pretty quickly, but she wants, a good work-life balance, and she's happy to, find a couple of people to do a lot of the work for her. She's probably only working a few hours a day. She's not working 6 to 7 hours a week at this point. She has a lot less stress in her life. She picks her own hours. She picks her own clients. She gets to wear whatever she wants to work. And she pays a lot less in tax because she takes advantage of the tax strategies that are available to business owners. So here, she's making a profit of $600,000 because she's really optimized from a tax standpoint and very smart and prepared and started doing these strategies early in her business. She's only paying about $100,000 of taxes a year. So her net take-home pay is actually the same as the individual in the example before, but I think we can all agree she has a much better life. So let's shift to the other side of the equation where we talk about how we invest our money. So we know that we want to be making money in a way that's tax efficient, but we also don't want to take that money and invest it in ways that we're going to pay a lot of tax on those investment returns. One of the worst things that I used to see in practice is that the vast majority of the population that is financially responsible and does have some savings and some net worth actually is really inefficient on both sides of the equation. So I know a lot of people watching this video are just from a practical standpoint not going to go out and start their business. So you may just kind of admit that you're always going to pay a lot of tax on how you make money on the first side of the equation. But the last thing you want to do is then invest your money in a way that's inefficient. You cannot be inefficient on both sides of the equation and think that you're ever going to get to financial freedom early in life. So let's talk about how we invest our money in a way that is efficient from a tax standpoint. Here we have what I like to call the scaredy cat investor. So I actually think this individual represents the vast majority of the population. He panics when he thinks about money. He probably has a financial advisor. He probably owns a home and he probably has most of that home paid off. He probably holds a lot of money in cash. He has that mythical emergency fund set aside for whatever crazy reason could require you to need that money at this exact second. He's probably mostly invested in stocks and bonds. So the extent of his investments are really probably just what his financial advisor has told him, and that's some allocation between stocks and bonds. This is a bad situation from any standpoint, not only just a tax standpoint. He's got a bunch of equity tied up in a home that's not doing anything. He probably is not even getting the tax deduction for the mortgage interest he pays because most people don't. He's not getting any tax deduction under current law for the fees he pays to his financial advisor. And his cash is losing value every day because of inflation. Also, from a tax standpoint, his stocks and bonds are kicking off very low returns in most cases, and he's paying a lot of tax on those dividends, cap gains, and maybe some interest in some cases. So this is just really inefficient from both an investment standpoint and a tax standpoint. But unfortunately, this situation represents the vast majority of the population who thinks that they are investors or saving money and being very smart with money and making investments with the money that they have. So let's talk about what a smart investor is doing. So you see this guy is much more calm. He's reading. He's learning about investing in tax strategies. He has this money invested in much smarter things that are going to be more tax efficient and are also going to kick off higher investment returns. So he's invested in things like businesses. That could be businesses he manages himself or businesses he's more passively invested in. He's probably investing in things like investment funds, that fund can invest in anything from private equity, venture capital, real estate. He also may invest in real estate himself, whether directly, going out and buying properties and managing them himself, or through an investment fund or syndication, which is my preferred approach. He also likes to take advantage of great tax planning strategies available to investors like the buy, borrow, die strategy. And he invests in things that are good for buy, borrow, die, like index funds, crypto, things like that are assets that he really understands, but also assets he's willing to own for the long term. So the key here that I want to stress is that it's important that you reduce taxes on both sides of the equation. You want to be optimized with respect to the money you're making, but also with your investments. So as I mentioned before, the worst thing you can do is be making money in a way that's really tax inefficient, like earning, W-2 salary as most of your income coming in, and then taking that money and investing it in things that are inefficient, like stock picking, bonds, things that just don't kick off high investment returns, but also are going to be taxed inefficiently. So if you want to learn more about the strategies that you can use to make money tax efficiently, as well as invest your money in a way that's going to kick off investment returns that you're not going to pay a lot of tax, you should subscribe to my channel and check out my videos. This is really where I focus the majority of my content, is teaching you these strategies on how you can achieve financial freedom by reducing the taxes that you're paying.